There's a general pattern for Splatoon engagements that I find helpful to think about, and that I don't see a lot of teams talking about until mid or even high level play. So I want to go over the concept of what I call the weak side and strong side of the map. The phrasing is stolen from American football terminology, referring to the offensive line. For the weak-willed and unpatriotic so-called Americans who don't know the game, or the silly foreigners who are missing out by never having learned it, the offensive line is the group of very large people who participate in a consensual car accident with the equally very large defenders, known as the defensive line, who are trying to charge at the ball carrier right at the start of the play. In some formations, the O-line players are arranged asymmetrically, with an extra player on one side of the formation, making it the strong side as compared to the less defended weak side. Now, I don't know how well the comparison I'm going to make to Splatoon lines up with how an O-line works. You've seen me on camera. You know how skinny I am. That was not my position. But at least with this shallow understanding of a formation's inherent strengths and weaknesses, I think there are times in Splatoon where it's helpful to look at your team as a football offensive line. A lot of the time, you're going to have a disproportionate amount of resources on one side of the map. And when that happens, it's on the players to recognize that and play differently, depending on whether you're in a position your teammates can rotate to quickly. On the strong side, you might be looking to break through, to actually create an opening, overwhelm the other team. On the weak side, though, you just don't have the resources to expect to win those kinds of hard-committed engagements. Your job there isn't so much to create a lane for the running back, so to speak, as it is just to stall long enough the quarterback doesn't get sacked immediately and the play can develop uninterrupted. That doesn't mean you can't play aggressively from the weak side. When a team pushes, it's really important to apply pressure in multiple different locations on the map to split the defense. But the weak side player needs to realize that if the other team decides they've had enough and rushes at you to try and remove you from play so they can quickly turn and watch the other side, the only way to win that engagement reliably is to survive it. You're highly unlikely to just be able to win outright on your own against two or more players that know where you are. The win condition there is to have an escape route, use it, and for the enemy team to have committed two players forward to no effect, while, meanwhile, more members of your team are pushing someplace else, now against two enemy players fewer. Consider also that, as the player on the weak side, there's often a backline weapon that's depending on you to watch their flank, while they watch what they'd really rather be watching. Just being there as a deterrent to the enemy push may be all your team needs from you for them to be successful somewhere else. Losing that flank guard to a committed engagement you didn't have to take from a position your teammates couldn't help you with may not just mean you're down one player, but now that's another player's position that's also compromised. Too many players run into lopsided, disadvantageous engagements, thinking too much about how they're going to get in and not enough about how they're going to get out. Never mind whether it looks safe to you right now. When, not if, someone rushes you, what angles are you going to get pushed from? What paint trail are you retreating back into? What cover are you getting behind? How long do you need to recover when your feet get painted? And is that a short enough time for you to avoid taking lethal damage before you get away? Not having answers to these questions and figuring you'll just fight it out once it happens means that you're going for a committed engagement, an engagement that you're not expecting to get away from. And you should only ever take those when you're pretty confident you're able to win them. You probably shouldn't be confident you can win them if you're playing on the weak side of the map against an evenly matched opponent. Look, man, let's even say you're the biggest dude in all the NFL of all time. That would put you at 410 pounds, or 186 kilograms in heretic units. You're bigger than every other individual player, but you're not bigger than even two run-of-the-mill, average-sized guys the other team is going to line up in front of you put together. You've got to pick smarter battles if you want the optimal chances of success for you and your team. Putting yourself in a position where you have to truck two guys by yourself may look good to the fans you're trying to impress, but if your actual job is to win the game, you need to use all of your advantages, not just lean heavily on one of them that you want people to be impressed by. You're not going to win straight up 1v2s reliably enough to beat opponents at your skill level. If your team is depending on you to do that, rather than setting you up to do that, or pairing you up with teammates so you have someone to fight with, you're not learning as much as you could, and your teammates aren't learning as much as they can from that arrangement. Don't make it a source of pride to try to win 1v2s. Be proud of being enough of a threat that it takes two of them to push one of you away. Be annoying. Be what they're complaining about having to look away from the objective to deal with after the match. Be the reason your backliner gets to stay in the pocket and take all the time in the world to find their shots. Be the flanking threat that makes the main push twice as dangerous. And try not to get concussed too often. Your older self will thank you for that.